Hi, welcome to Parrot and Wolf. Today we're going to talk about pronouns in English. Now, pronouns replace nouns or name words, and we use them to avoid repeating information we already know. Some pronouns are very common, like the first English word most students learn, I, and some are less common, like ourselves. Native speakers use lots of pronouns which can make them tough to understand, especially when listening, but they become easy to use and understand after a little practice, so don't worry. There are 5 types of pronouns we need to know: subject pronouns, object pronouns, possessive pronouns, possessive adjectives, and reflexive pronouns. Now, I know I just said adjectives, but it's a name. They're the same thing, trust me. Let's look at subject pronouns first. I eat lunch at 1 p.m. every day. This is a simple sentence that describes when the speaker eats lunch. The subject pronoun is I, which, as we said earlier, is perhaps the most important word in the English language. There are 8 subject pronouns, 5 pronouns describe a single person, and 3 pronouns describe groups of people. Now, the single person pronouns are: I is the speaker, or first person singular; you, the listener, or second person singular; he, a man the speaker is talking about, third person singular; she, a woman the speaker is talking about, third person singular; and it, a thing the speaker is talking about, third person singular. The group pronouns are we, a group of people the speaker is talking about, including the speaker, first person plural; you, a group of listeners, second person plural; and they, a group of people the speaker is talking about, not including the speaker, third person plural. When we talk about pronouns, we think about a conversation between 2 people. In each conversation, there's a speaker and a listener, and we choose the correct subject pronoun depending on who is speaking and who is listening. The group pronouns each describe 2 or more people. Other simple examples of subject pronouns are: we'll meet after school today; she swam 2 kilometers this morning; they didn't pass the exam; you are very thoughtful. It can be useful to think about them as first person, second person, and third person in singular and plural, as shown. The good news is the focus on the speaker and the listener stays the same for all types of pronouns. It never changes. So, what are object pronouns? I help David. This is a simple sentence that describes the speaker and someone called David. The subject of the sentence is I, and the object is David. We use the noun David because we're introducing the new person into the conversation. It's new information. But what happens when the meaning is already obvious, when we already know we're talking about David? Well, we use an object pronoun instead. I help him. Now let's think. Is the object new information? No. Is the sentence meaning obvious? Yes. So we can use an object pronoun to replace an object that is known when the meaning is obvious. We use object pronouns in the same way as subject pronouns. First person, me, us. Second person, you, you. Third person, him, her, it, them. Again, try to think of pronouns as individuals and groups, singular and plural. Other simple examples of object pronouns are: we eat it every day; I didn't know you then; you'll see them again tomorrow; can you help me? Notice that in the first 3 examples, the meaning is confusing because we don't know the object of the sentence. This is exactly why we can only use pronouns for information we know. Okay, so that's subject and object pronouns. Now, what about possessive adjectives? David lost a pen. This simple sentence describes the action of losing a pen. However, we don't know who owned the pen. Was it David's pen? Was it someone else's pen? We can include this information by adding a noun. David lost David's pen. Now, it's obvious that the subject and the object describe the same person, David, so we can use a possessive adjective to replace the second noun. David lost his pen. Now let's think. Is the object new information? Yes. Is the owner new information? No. Is the sentence meaning obvious? Yes. So we can use a possessive adjective to replace possession that is known when the meaning is obvious. We use possessive adjectives in the same way as other pronouns. First person, my, our; second person, your; third person, his, her, its, their. Remember, try to think of pronouns as individuals and groups, singular and plural. Other simple examples of possessive adjectives are: I believe their story. Emma is going to buy my car. This is our new house. Your cat is purring. As you can imagine, possessive adjectives are very common in everyday conversation because people talk about their possessions a lot. So we now know possessive adjectives. Let's look at possessive pronouns, which are really similar, so don't worry. Consider the same sentence. David lost his pen. Here we use a possessive adjective, his, because we already know the pen belongs to David and we don't want to repeat David in the sentence. But what happens when we already know about the pen? What happens when the pen is not new information? Well, we can do this. David borrowed my pen, he lost his. It's obvious we're talking about a pen because the topic is introduced in the first sentence. We don't say his pen in the second sentence because the meaning is clear. It's not new information. So let's think. Is the object new information? No. Is the owner new information? No. Is the sentence meaning clear? Yes. So we can use a possessive pronoun to replace possession and the object that is known when the meaning is clear. We use possessive pronouns in the same way as other pronouns. So first person, mine, ours. Second person, yours, yours. Third person, his, hers, its, theirs. And once again, try to think of pronouns as individuals and groups, singular and plural. Other simple examples of possessive pronouns are I ate theirs, Emma is going to buy mine, this is ours, yours is purring. Compare these short sentences to the possessive adjectives we saw earlier and you'll notice the difference straight away. Make sure you get comfortable with it. Okay, so that's almost all of them, just one left. Lastly, let's look at reflexive pronouns. I enjoyed myself last night. This sentence is different to the other sentences we've looked at in this lesson. Can you guess why? Well, the subject and the object are exactly the same. When this happens, we use a reflexive pronoun for the object. Let's think. Is the object exactly the same as the subject? Yes. Do we replace the subject or the object? The object. The reflexive pronoun shows the subject and the object of the verb is the same. We use reflexive pronouns in the same way as the other pronouns. First person, myself, ourselves. Second person, yourself, yourselves. Third person, himself, herself, itself, themselves. Now be careful with these because the plural forms use selves and the singular forms use self. It's not a bad mistake, but it's an easy one to make. Other simple examples of reflexive pronouns are he only loves himself, she made herself a cup of tea, we can't help others until we help ourselves, I test myself mentally every day. Always listen out for the endings, elf and elves, with reflexive pronouns. It can really help to recognize them in conversation. We can also use reflexive pronouns for emphasis in sentences. We do it by moving the position of the reflexive pronoun in the sentence. For example, I did the job myself. The reflexive pronoun is not in the usual position as the object. In fact, the object is the job. In this case, the fact the speaker did the job is very important. The reflexive pronoun shows a strong emphasis when not in the usual object position. Other examples of using reflexive pronouns for emphasis are the boy ate the cake himself, the queen herself drove the car, we ourselves will build a better future. Now, pronouns are often used together as conversation develops and grows. Let's look at some common sentences that use different types of pronouns at the same time. She gave him theirs. He gave him my pen. It is in our nature to destroy ourselves. She always enjoys herself at yours. I can do it myself. He stole yours and mine. It's mine. You can see from the examples that there are a wide variety of different word orders possible, but the good news is almost all the pronouns sound quite different, so it gets easier with practice. So to summarize, pronouns are used to replace nouns. There are 5 different types of pronoun and 8 forms for each type. It's a lot of pronouns. Most of the pronouns sound quite different, and lastly, they make conversation quick and fluent. To find out more about learning English for Cambridge and IELTS exams, business and work, or general conversation, visit ParrotandWolf.com.